Julian Gadano, thank you so much for joining me here in Washington, D.C.
No, the pleasure is mine to be in this. I really like this city.
Yeah.
You know, the Argentinians in Latin America like to be in Miami, New York, which is a very nice city. But I prefer, I mean, to live, I think this is
For sure.
a better city. And if you want to go to New York, take the train, take a bus, take your car and go to New York for a weekend. But I live here.
Exactly. Well, I mean, your position probably requires you to travel all around the world.
Oh, of course, yes. But in my position, DC is much more useful and interesting than other cities in the U.S.
So just for our audience who may not know, I mean, you've got to be you're probably the top ranked nuclear person in all of Argentina.
Well, it sounds too much, but yeah. Well, and you know, on the one hand, I am, yes, because I am the responsible of the nuclear, the execution and the design, planification and execution of nuclear policy there. Yeah. Not for I'm finishing my task because my position is politically appointed, and the administration, this period of the current administration is finishing, and we are in the middle of a political transition. A new government will take power in December, so I won't be that powerful person anymore, at least for the next 4 years.
But what I want to hear, because your background is very interesting. I don't see too many people come into the... You're a sociologist by training,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You're right. Yes.
So how did that happen? Well, first, take me all the way back and tell me what brought you into the field of sociology.
Yeah, well, when I decided, always happen. You should decide what to study when you are 20 years old, 19 years old. So you know nothing about the world. Yeah. So that's a fact. So my ideas about my career and about my future were very different at that time. My idea at that time was to make an academic career, in a university, in the Argentina Research Council, maybe out of Argentina, maybe here, maybe Europe, I don't know. But, well, in the middle, I figured out that what I like the most is to do things. I mean, do real things, to work in, and particularly public policies. Yeah. So why I started to work more oriented to public policies, and 10 years ago, for many reasons, the planets have aligned in some sense, I started to work in nuclear. First, paradoxically, academically, because I was in a short academic period at that time. I'm talking about 2007, 2008. So I started to study nuclear from social science perspective.
Why was it interesting to you?
In the first place, a very sociological interest, a perception of risk. Yeah. Because nuclear is very interesting because it probably is the field with the more, the larger gap between perception of risk and real risk. Right. Yeah, because...
So why is that?
Yeah, well, many reasons, but our origin, war, bomb, and that. When you say nuclear, normally people think in nuclear bomb. Yeah, it is the Chernobyl accident, of course. The Chernobyl accident was a game changer, a tipping point. Fukushima accident. So for many reasons, the nuclear industry, shows that image. Risky, complicated, not in my backyard, and that. So I became to be interested in that, curiosity, let's say, that gap. After that, to be honest, I am sociologist, but with the time I became more a political scientist than a sociologist in terms of my interest in institutions and, political decisions, political system and that. So I, later, 3 years after that, 2009, more or less, I started to put my eyes on nuclear security, international relations, nuclear, international field,
At this point, you joined the regulator.
and that. So, and at that moment, I joined the regulatory body. No, of course, working in the what the nuclears call the technical part. The radiological protection and that, because it's not my area of expertise. But working in nuclear security, safeguards, mainly safeguards, and that. So I worked in the regulatory body for 7 years. So between 2008, 2009 to 2015. And when President Macri won the election in 2015, he asked me to, take part of his government. And of course I accepted, because I belong to that political coalition, to our political coalition. So here I am. I'm finishing, because we lose the election. That's the way it is.
As elections go.
Democracy, yes. Yeah. So other guys will be there in next year, in December. But I will be in nuclear.
Of course. Yeah, it's a tight-knit community. There are only so many people, and we can use all the experts we get.
Yeah, exactly. In Argentina, out of Argentina, I don't know yet, but I'm sure that I will be working in nuclear.
And so tell me, what is the relationship?
So I'll take 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah, take a couple of weeks off. You earned it.
Then, I will,
After 10 years of nonstop, you're earning more.
No, these 4 years were, fascinating, but a little bit.
Well, I want to get to what you learned in those 4 years, but first, can you help me understand what is the architecture of the Argentinian nuclear industry as a whole?
Okay.
How does the government relate to the developer, relate to the electric company, relate to the regulator?
Perfect. Yeah, good question, because in Argentina, to understand the Argentinian nuclear sector is first you should take into account. You should know that the public sector is very important. Mm-hmm. Okay, the government, the state, because we have the Atomic Energy Commission, a couple of important public companies. The utility is 100% public owned. We have in Argentina 3 nuclear power plants, all owned and operated by a public company, of which I am the president of the board of directors, in addition to my position of Undersecretary of
That's a lot to manage all at the same time.
Yeah, for one salary. Yes, a lot of, yeah.
But how do you even handle that though? Because one is like an operational role, one is a regular, you have to know so much to be able to put the different hats on.
No, you have to, you have to have a very good team. And in Argentina, the nuclear field is, 70 years developing. You have good people.
Yeah. I've been told, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that there is a young generation of nuclear engineers in Argentina that are particularly bright.
Yeah.
That it's in some industries, it's the older people who have all the experience. But people have told me in Argentina, no, the young people are really smart.
Yeah, the problem that we have is in the middle.
Yeah.
We have old people, very, very good, and young people, very good and very enthusiastic. But in the middle, 40-something and 50-something. We have a problem because in 19th decade, Argentina underinvested in nuclear. So we have that gap. We are managing that, trying the old people not to retire yet and, manage that. But yes, we have a lot of young people because, in Argentina, nuclear field is, it's a nice field to have a career, internationally connected and that. So yes. So, finishing that Argentinian architecture, the public sector is very important. The second, player there is the private sector, companies working for nuclear. We have a good level of engineering in private companies, and NGOs and civil society working there. Some of them in pro nuclear, other anti-nuclear, but in a good balance of and with good discussion about
as long as people are talking.
What about nuclear? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So when you came into this role 4 years ago, what did you think it was going to be like, and then what actually happened?
Okay. This role, Undersecretary, 4 years ago. Yeah. Well, when it's a good moment to make that question because I'm finishing, no? So, and when you finish, your mind is in a wrap up, mood. But I think, when you start, you have a lot of expectations, ideas, and you think that you will change the world. In the meantime, you realize that you will not change the world, but maybe you can put your finger there, your sign there.
Leave your mark.
Yeah, leave your mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we did that. We organized in the first place. We organized the sector. It was that was a little disorganized because we created the Undersecretary. I mean, the Undersecretariat it was our idea.
Yeah.
In order to have an institution, a group of people, an area in charge of monitoring, fixing, putting priorities of the whole sector. The sector is a very developed one, a very complex one, with a lot of institutions, the Atomic Energy Commission, the companies, small institutions, and that needs to be conducted, organized. So we created the Undersecretariat not to compete with the agencies, with the public agencies, but to, organize them.
Facilitate cooperation, for make example, sure that information was going on.
And mainly work as, the interface between the sector and the decision makers.
What were some of the things that were being held back by the previous disorganization? What are some of the things that the industry wanted to accomplish, but just never could because there wasn't that interface?
Well, it's not an easy question. Since, in Argentina, as in other countries, the institution behind nuclear development was the Navy between the 50s and the 80s.
Yeah.
So the Navy, as in Brazil.
Yeah, it's just in Brazil. They said the same thing.
In Brazil, the same thing was until the 80s, the powerful institution behind nuclear development. So between the 50s and the 80s, a very successful partnership worked there between the nuclear people, the nuclear professionals, and the Navy. Because the Navy, I prefer to be in democracy, of course, but despite that, the Navy was very powerful, and the Navy understood that nuclear was an interesting thing to control and to have under their, their control. So between the 50s and the 80s, the Atomic Energy Commission, went through a huge development, human resources in general, a good program, and overall a powerful part of the political power supporting them, the Navy.
Yeah.
From the 80s, the first president of this democratic cycle that we have, luckily in Argentina, disempowered the military in general, moved back the military to their specific task, not to be in politics, not to participate in government, not to promote coup d'etat and that. Move back to your responsibility.
Take a second seat, yeah.
Be
support only.
Be the military, not them. But and this was very good, very good. But the fact is that every decision, every policy decision has its how the military call that when you took a decision you have that loses I don't remember the exact word, but its consequences. Yeah, every decision has its non-desired consequences.
Yeah, unintended consequences.
Yeah. Collateral damage.
Collateral damage. Right. Yes.
Yeah, you know that the military talk about that. Yeah. Lives are collateral damages. Yeah. Okay, in this case, the collateral damage was the disempowerment of the Atomic Energy Commission, because the Atomic Energy Commission lose, let's say, their godfather into the political system. So, going to your question, it's not a particular project, but the Atomic Energy Commission, lose year by year its visibility, in Argentina's priorities. Yep. So what we try to do here is to, move back to the nuclear development, but with a new agenda, because you cannot invest in nuclear in the 21st century with the same agenda that in the Cold War, with military thinking about maybe complicated projects. The
world has changed.
The world has changed. So, and the nuclear field needs to change. For example, we need to have more transparency, more economically viable projects, more efficiency. Well,
definitely.
So we don't have anymore. We don't have the public sector putting money, no accountability anymore. From the 50s to the 80s, because nuclear was an important tool for political power, because the military agenda, politicians were able to put money in secret projects, not always transparent, and that this is not our agenda anymore. Not only our Argentinian agenda, the nuclear field. I mean,
right.
Peaceful purposes, peaceful uses means not only that, but means transparency, means innovation, means a good relationship with civil society. So we tried these years not to, to support. Yeah, we support, some particular project. But the first thing here is, the first that we try to do is to put the Argentinian nuclear field in a new agenda, in a positive agenda. I think, we were successful in that. We at the end of the day, we had less money than we expected to have, because Argentina is in the middle of an economic crisis. But it's not important. The important thing here is, where do you want to go?
Well, it's interesting because, I've started hearing about this CAREM project.
Yeah.
And this seems to be like a huge opportunity.
Yeah, well, the CAREM is a good example.
It's got international recognition.
From the first day, I told to my team, our nuclear sector should be a CAREM's factory.
Yeah,
it's a metaphor, but
maybe it should be.
Yeah,
more than a metaphor.
We have a lot of groups working in different areas. Very good. I mean, fusion, plasma, and that. But the big part of our budget should be, oriented to finance that amazing project.
Tell us about the CAREM. What is this? What is this reactor?
Yeah, the reactor is many things. In the first place, is the first reactor designed in Argentina. Argentina is not, the first reactor for nuclear power designed in Argentina, because Argentina is a good player in research and radioisotope production reactors.
But like a really good player. Like most people,
it's a really good player.
Most countries, unless they're very, very well developed, have not designed and exported research reactors.
Yes.
But Argentina has.
Yes, an Argentinian company, INVAP. So we have in the world today 4 to 5 companies able in conditions to design a research reactor. INVAP is one.
Yeah.
A Korean
World
company.
class.
Yeah, Korean company. Not in here, for example. Not in the US.
Yeah.
So yes, world class. We INVAP sold engineering or construction or everything regarding research reactors to Algeria, Peru, Australia, the Netherlands, Brazil. So yes.
So you guys know how to design a reactor from scratch.
Yeah, no, definitively. But a reactor for nuclear power is a different thing. I mean, it has a relation.
I see.
But it's a different thing. Different pressure conditions, different temperature, different objectives is different, and is different in terms of business. We are talking about in research reactors, we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. In nuclear power plants, we are talking about thousands of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's different. So in the first place, the CAREM project is the first serious Argentinian project. About a nuclear power plant, nuclear reactor designed in Argentina. When you work in this industry, the most important thing is the engineering, not the manufacturing. Yeah. The manufacturing is, with the exception of some parts, is a commodity. You can manufacture in any place in Asia, in the South, in Asia, in many countries. But the big thing here, the important thing is the engineering and the intelligence behind. Yeah. So we have that with that reactor. The second important thing here is that is a new class of reactors into the world of what we call SMRs, small modular reactors. The world is talking about SMRs.
Yes.
I think we are exaggerating a little at this moment. SMRs are the solution to everything. No.
Well, let's get into that at some point as well, too, because I also want to pick your brain on that.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like the theory behind SMR is amazing. A little smaller, more manufacturable,
safer, more secure, and that. Yeah.
So the theory is great, and the theory could be the savior, but it always comes down to implementation. How people actually design these things on top of the theory, that maybe when you look at the reality of it, no longer does it seem like it's our savior anymore.
No. Well, yeah.
It could help, but it's not going to take over the world's energy market. But
it's not the perfect world. It's not the perfect design, but definitely is a new design. For the first time in 50 years, nuclear people are thinking out of the box, not only with SMRs, with fast reactors, with fusion. There is a good story in fusion. Not thinking in that huge institute in Europe, the ITER.
Yeah.
But small companies, good startups working in small fusion reactors and that. So we have many examples on how the industry is rethinking, how a reactor should be in the future. And this is the good thing, because for the last 50 years, we think always in the same way. I mean, reactors, the bigger the better, and that. Today we are thinking out of the box, because that reactors are useful, on the one hand, but are problematic on the other hand, because are too complicated, require a lot of money up front, people doesn't like.
Well, that's one of my criticisms of a lot of the SMR designs,
the classic
that I
reactor,
see.
what we call large MPPs, right?
Well, that's the problem, because it seems to me that the theory behind SMRs is amazing, but in reality, when some companies go to then design these SMRs, they still keep all of the complication of the large reactors, and now they have less power coming out. So their effective price isn't as good. Like, why, when they go smaller, can't they make it simpler?
Yeah.
Can't they just say, listen, we don't need 5 backups, because if it's smaller, that means the consequence in an accident is also smaller. So it's not the same thing as a giant meltdown scenario.
Okay, the fact is that they are not only smaller. Yeah, they are smaller, which means a lot of things, but you can manage a crisis much, very, very well, much better than in a huge reactor, because it's not the same to have a problem with a 1600 megawatts reactor
a lot more
than with a 60 megawatts reactor. The first difference is smaller is better in this case. Second is modular, so you can have up to 12 small reactors in the same unit. So this is possible because of the technology, because you can manage more than one reactor with only one control room.
Is this the plan for CAREM as well, to put multiple
Yes,
together?
the same as NewScale.
Very good.
That's the word. That's what modular means.
Yes.
So you can put up to 12 reactors in line, managed but from one control room. This is possible today, not 20 years ago, because of the technology. The best metaphor to imagine this is a control tower in an airport. You have one people managing 12 flights at the same time. This is possible because of the technology, because there is you have a computer there, a software there managing that flight. You, at the end of the day, a person is who takes the decision, but really helped by a machine, by a software. In nuclear is the same. So SMRs are possible because today we have the technology to manage different reactors from one control room with 5 people. So this is very important in to say. I mean, because the whole system is safer, because if you have one problem in one reactor, you don't have the problem in the rest of the machines. Is economically more productive, because you have maybe one reactor stopped, one reactor not in operation, but the rest are. So the second dimension is the modular dimension. The third one is that the design is not only smaller, but integrated. Every part of the reactor into the vessel. So this machine, smaller and integrated, can be manufactured in one factory.
Right. So you could set up one giant warehouse that puts these together and then produces them almost on an assembly line, like airplanes might be produced.
Like airplanes is the best example. So this is much, much cheaper. So
is the country, is Argentina in line with this vision still? Is this vision going to persist, where you continue the development of the CAREM project and then you actually do build this factory and start exporting these CAREMs?
Of course. But what we want, Argentina is in line. Now that I am the Undersecretary of Nuclear Energy, Argentina is in line. I don't know in the future, but I assume that it will be. So what we want here is to, a second stage is starting, because the prototype, I would like to talk about the prototype in a minute, but the prototype is, we expect to have the prototype finished in 2022. So we are, starting a second track this next year, which is, the engineering of the commercially viable model, because the prototype is not economically efficient, it's not competitive. It's for learning. It's to demonstrate that, hey guys, this is possible. It's very important.
Collect data. The whole
No. Here we have a reactor working. It's not an idea. It's not a design. It's not a sheet of paper. There you have a reactor working. So it is very important, but it's not economically competitive. So we are working, and the Atomic Energy Commission, some companies are starting to work in the engineering of the commercially viable model, which means competitive. So why now? Because from a commercial perspective, it is important to have, when you start the operation of the prototype, it will be a very, good momentum the eyes of the whole world will be looking at Argentina. So at that moment, we need to have a good design commercially viable to say, hey guys, look at this.
Yeah.
You see, the prototype is working, but here we have our 2.0 model commercially viable to offer to the world. But to do that, we need not only a new consortium working there, because the prototype is in charge of the Atomic Energy Commission, and the Atomic Energy Commission is very good, but it's an R&D institution.
Right, it's not
a commercial.
designed to be business oriented and to sell.
Exactly, exactly. So we need a different people working there. The Atomic Energy Commission, but plus public companies, private companies, and that.
Who are going to be those companies?
INVAP, for example, for sure.
Yeah, who already sells the research reactors.
Yeah. So and INVAP has a commercial view of this business.
Yes.
NASA, the utility, what I talked about, because we need a reactor, we need an operator for the reactor.
Sure.
Some private companies, I mean, we are working on that. That organization, that company, it doesn't exist yet. But my idea is to found a new organization with the CONEA inside, with INVAP inside, with some private companies with good engineering capabilities inside, and with an international partner. Because to sell a reactor, you need good financial
backing,
because no one a reactor is not a machine that you sell in cash in one payment upfront.
Right.
And
it acts as a hedge against local economic risks as well. If it was totally Argentina and the Argentinian economy was struggling and it no longer became a priority,
that's right,
if you have an international partner involved, it keeps the project going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I am convinced of that. So we need the CAREM needs to be more than an Argentinian project. I don't know what the guys that are coming think, because in Argentina the opinion of the government is very important. So I don't know what they think, but what I think is that we need to have a new company in charge of the project, with companies inside, with investors inside, and with someone not Argentinian inside.
Does this new collection of this new coalition, whatever organization manages that, does that have to be a state-owned enterprise, or can that be a private, either
not necessarily
Argentinian or maybe even a foreign company come in?
Maybe public, a private public consortium with a foreign company there. Is not important. To be honest, the important thing here is to have good people, well organized, with a good framework, a company, not a R&D public organization, commercially oriented, and that. But talking about the machine again, moving back a little again to the machine, the fourth advantage is that the machine is much safer because it's smaller, so to manage the crisis is easier, as I said before, but because the safety, it has what we call a passive safety system. So what this means, that in a crisis you can, you can cool the reactor without any external assistance for 38 hours, which is a lot.
So the advantage of having smaller reactors is that literally the amount of heat is proportionally less. In the case of an accident, your decay heat is much less.
Yes.
Which means that the natural physics of the system can dissipate some of that heat before it attacks the structural materials. So in the case of an accident or an unexpected shutdown, heat just kind of moves and flows out, and the thing stays exactly how it was before.
Yeah, you don't need an external pump, you don't need an external assistance for the first period, of course, for the 36 hours, 38 hours, but it's a lot of time. That's
when the most heat is coming out, because of the decay curve.
Exactly, in the first place. And in the second place, if you have a crisis in one reactor, you can isolate that crisis in one small reactor. After that first 36 hours period, you can cool a small reactor with a couple of fire stations, and that's it. So it's very, very different. We need to work. When I say we, in this case, we need the nuclear sector in the world to work with the people, with the communication, because still people think that nuclear power is dangerous, dirty, and that.
So you're a sociologist, so let me run this by you. Because one of the theories that I've been developing as I talk to more people is that it is our overreaction to events. It is our promising, we're going to keep waste safe for 1 million years. We'll evacuate everyone in case anything goes wrong. Yeah. That's what scares people. Yeah. Is it possible that what we really need to do to gain public acceptance is to just behave more calmly and act more rationally as the nuclear sector and tell you, you know what, something happened, but it's not the end of the world. We don't need to evacuate you. We'll take care of it. Yeah. Like, we'll keep you informed, of course we need to act more calmly.
Yeah, of course we need to do that. But I think that is not the most important task in front of us. In the first place, as I said, we have, a fact that the nuclear energy in the origin has to be with death, which is the nuclear bomb. So this is part of.
How is that possible now, when in the 1960s and 70s, when it was much closer to the bomb, people loved nuclear. In the US, they built 100 reactors. Nobody thought about the bomb then, and that was closer to the bomb.
Because people love technology. We live now what we call, sociologists call the post-industrial period. People do not like industries. Yeah. I mean, in the 60s, to have a lot of factories with smoke there, it was a good symbol. You are a developed country and that. Today, you don't want that.
Yeah.
You want in a different country.
Yeah.
If you are a developed country like the US, Germany, and that, you want that, urban people, millennials, want that in Mexico, in Czech Republic, this is a problem because, this means jobs and that, but it is a fact. What I think is happening in this context, post-industrial societies, is the new economies and that, is that nuclear has two problems that other industry doesn't have. For example, aircraft in airlines, aircrafts, and that. Aerospace industry. The first is that people, because of that post-industrial ideology, doesn't like, doesn't desire, doesn't love nuclear. Mm. People really like to be in an airplane. It's nice, Even today, airplanes today are not the same that 30 years ago. Yeah. That the low cost and that hasn't the charm of the old airlines in the 60s. Yeah. But anyway, people like to
makes you feel accomplished and wealthy.
Yeah, it's nice because you think that you are traveling to a different place and that. So it's nice.
Yeah.
So when you have an accident with an airplane, a lot of people dead in the last 50 years in airplanes accidents. At the end of the day, you doesn't care. Okay, it was an accident, but it's not my case. I won't be in an accident in the future. Is only one accident in many
people
cases.
Rationalize it in their head because they like it anyway.
Because I like to be in an airplane because it's nice. You are flying,
Yes.
And the second is that you know that you need airplanes because if you want to visit your uncle, if you want to close a business, if you want to be on vacation, in the
There's
Caribbean,
no alternative.
You need that.
Yeah.
In nuclear, you don't have these two things.
So isn't maybe that the problem to solve? Isn't maybe the challenge for the nuclear industry to create that sense among the public? One, you do need it because, let's say, like in South Korea, it powered the modernization of their society. It would be like North Korea for nuclear.
In Africa.
In Africa, right? Okay, so one, we have to create the sense that, yes, if you want to be a prosperous, modern society, you do need this clean, abundant, powerful energy source. And two, we have to make it something that they like being around. Maybe instead of putting them off, in the distance where nobody goes visits in them, put them where, like, you have a reservoir of water that is recreational and warm up the water a little bit and make it like a bath that they can play.
Yeah, it is easier to work on the you need dimension because, climate change, and you like to have phones, light, it's easier to work on that.
Yeah.
It's not so easy, but it's easier.
Yeah.
The love dimension, the want dimension, to want dimension is a little more difficult because, you need to work on that technological part of nuclear energy.
Yeah.
People, it is important us to recover that technological dimension. People to love that their country, their society has that technological industry. We have that with INVAP.
Yeah.
In Argentina, the people that know INVAP, in Bariloche, for example, the city in which INVAP is located, people love INVAP because INVAP is they are proud of INVAP.
Yes,
exactly.
Of course.
So
why don't we do that then? Why don't we hire the people who made the the diamonds are a girl's best friend type thing, like the marketing campaign? For God's sakes, it's a rock, and they made it something that everyone wants.
Yeah.
Why don't we just hire those marketing people to make people proud that their country is a nuclear country?
About that is that we are talking about in IFNEC, for example. We need more people, interesting people, influencers, but interesting people, young people talking about that.
Yeah.
Nuclear is not only energy; it's technology. It's to face with challenges, to work in fusion, to bring the sun here, and to it's an in the way that a guy 25 years old, could think that, this is an interesting career to work on.
So why don't we do that then? Why don't we hire celebrity endorsers? They have a price. You pay them $10 million, they brag about whatever you want.
Because it's a decision to take. I agree with you, but people like...
my problem is let's say Vogel in the US.
Oil and gas industry invest a lot.
Of course. Every time you walk in the airport, you see...
Let me tell you that now I'm finishing my position, so I am free to speak. So oil and gas industry is a problem because the oil does contaminate today. The coal is a problem. The coal is cause of poison. It's cause of cancer. But they invest a lot of money in, this. We are an oil company very committed with the objectives of the millennium.
Exactly,
and
they'll say that.
We plant a lot of trees in the forest of.
So why don't we hire their people? Why don't we poach their best marketing people?
Because nuclear sector, is. It's an old-fashioned group with a lot of people very old that needs to, reshape their, mind.
But don't they see it as a struggle for survival now?
We're working through this. I am optimistic about this not only technological change, but cultural change in terms of we need to be loved. We talk a lot about public acceptance. That word, acceptance, I hate it.
You're so right.
You don't want,
expectations.
Your significant other to accept you. Please accept me. No, you want, you want he or she to love you.
Yeah.
To want to be with you, to enjoy your company. With nuclear, it's the same. Yeah. We need people to love us, to think that, I want to work there because this means technology, this means... So for that, we need to change our mind.
Yeah.
Our professional... People sometimes very old that have their minds in the 70s, in the 80s, we're important people. We know, that word people doesn't understand. We know what to do. No, man. Yeah. If people doesn't want you, the problem is yours. Yeah. Not, that expert, the group, the typical relation with the experts and society. The expert thinks that I am clear on that. I know how to do. Yeah. Not because, people, taxpayers, at the end of the day, you need that. You need them because your projects are in some instance publics. Yeah. So you need them to want to put money on your projects. So
why aren't you mentioned a coup before? Why don't we have like a coup d'etat within the nuclear sector where the young people who get this go to the board of directors and say, fire the CEO. I might only be 35, but put me in charge. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to, for every $10 billion reactor I sell, I'm going to pour $1 billion into marketing, like every other company. 10% goes to marketing.
Let me tell you a story. With the manager of one of our nuclear power plants retired 2 years ago. Of course, everybody was expecting the second in charge to take the position. Mm-hmm. That guy retired with 70 years old guy get retired. And this 67 years old guy expected to be the next. Yeah. We looked for, into the company, but we called for 42, 43 years old people. Yeah. Okay, do you want to be in charge of this machine, of this reactor? Do you want to be the manager of Embalse nuclear power plant? And a lot of people, said, yes, I am. Yeah. So we selected one guy, and today we have the manager of the Embalse nuclear power plant is 42, 43 years old. Very good guy, very intelligent, with a deep, open-minded. Yeah. So we need to work on that.
That's a good example, though. You did it.
Yeah. As a friend of mine, Michael Schellenberger always says, nuclear is fantastic, but people doesn't want. So we need to, to change that because it is a problem. Otherwise, we will still have problems in terms of we are not mitigating climate change. Yeah. The greener country in Europe, in continental Europe, is the nuclear France. Yeah. So the non-nuclear Germany, they are, going through a lot of problems because they are shutting down nuclear power plants. So they need to affirm the renewables energy, which is not, a base load source of energy. It's very good, but it's not a base load. Yeah. If you don't have nuclear, you need to affirm that not base load source of energy with coal, with oils, with liquids, with.
Well, I think this is going to be a big moment of crisis for the environmental sector. Either they are going to have to learn to love nuclear for its carbon-free elements, or they're going to have to admit to themselves that they're hypocrites and they don't care about climate change. What they care about is selling solar panels or whatever.
Is what I said. What I say. We need to move from, in terms of climate change mitigation, we need to move from marketing to real deal. Yeah. The marketing is very nice. We are investing in solar. This is very good, but it's not enough.
So who do you see as maybe some of the leaders or potential leaders of the nuclear industry that can carry us into this vision that you've portrayed?
Yeah, we need to talk more. We need to put the ideas on the table more. We need to convince people that this is a very nice industry, but that needs to modernize it. So we are doing in IFNEC. For example, Susie Jaworowski, the new chair of IFNEC, because I'm finishing my period, she invented a concept. It's very American. It has to be with American politics. But despite that, it has to be a lot with American domestic politics. But think for a second. Do not think in American. make nuclear cool again.
Yeah, of course.
So
of course.
it has to be, of course, with American politics, but for the rest of the world.
Yes. No, and I think it makes sense.
It's a very good sentence because nuclear not acceptable, cool again.
Yes, and it used to be.
Yeah,
and it used to be in the 60s.
Yeah,
everyone thought it was the future.
Magazines and that. Yeah, hey, Dad, I want to study nuclear engineering.
I actually don't think it would be that expensive either. I think because of all of these elements of nuclear that have been lost over time, that have been forgotten, if we bring them back, there's an amazing story to be told. I don't think it would be that expensive, but someone does need to put up the money and the organization to do it.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of look. Bill Gates, for example, is investing a lot of money.
But he's investing in technology, not in. To be honest, I would have rather him, instead of throwing money at a startup, which is great. Okay, that's how he thinks as a technologist. I would have rather him said, especially, okay, this guy makes $5 billion in interest every year.
Yeah.
I would have rather him said, I'm going to put $1 billion a year, every single year, into making nuclear cool again.
Yeah.
Right? Just a marketing campaign and nothing else. I think that would have gone so much further, even for his own company, but certainly to bring the whole industry up. And for him, that's nothing. He makes $5 billion a year on interest on his $100 billion money. If he really wanted nuclear to be rise, he could put $1 billion a year into marketing.
Yeah, okay, you are right. So, well, maybe you can, offer your good ideas to these old people.
No, they're your ideas. I'm learning from you guys. The one advantage of all of these conversations is that I get to hear people like you tell me this.
We are working on that. I am optimistic. Since 5 years old, we are in a very different place, for example, than 5 years ago. Sorry. So we are moving on, but we need to move faster.
Yeah.
And we expect to do that.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, I want to hear you paint your vision for the future. If you could look 10, 15 years from now and everything goes perfectly, what do you see? What does the world look like?
Yeah, well, I will be totally honest. 15 years from now, I see sincerely, I see a renaissance of nuclear, but a different one. I see a cleaner world, and honestly, with people more, conscious of the need, the urgent need of having a different world, a cleaner world. So I am very, very optimistic about that, because a cleaner world, from my perspective, has to be with less technology, but with more technology and a different mindset, use our resources in a different way, not to, overspend our resources, but this is going on very well. So we need technology to help us to do that. And nuclear is a very good technology, but I am optimistic because I think that we are building a new nuclear with different technologies. And I think that finally, nuclear will, be loved again, because we started a new path a couple of years, 5 years ago, and this is non-reversible. So I am very optimistic about to have a better world, a cleaner, in this sense. The politics is, it has other complicated dimensions, but in terms of the environment, I think we will have for sure a better world with the technology helping to that. And nuclear will be part of that.
Julian Gadano, thank you so much.
No, thank you.